Oh,
Hello, Professor.
good morning, or it is good morning for you as
It
well,
is
I
still
think.
morning, and you are coming to us live at this must be like 10 minutes past 3 in the morning.
3:30, yeah.
Wow, we are.
The earliest presentation I have ever done.
I'm deeply honored for your kindness in allowing this to happen. For members of the public, we had originally planned to do this recorded, but given some of the logistic challenges, we were not able to do a recorded session. But the professor has been so kind to allow us to do a live session at this unearthly hour. Thank you very much, Professor. I understand you're an expert in sustainability. Can you?
Yes, I mean, my background goes back to the late 80s, and I attended the Earth Summit in 1992 and have been involved in many projects around sustainability, both from a private sector, but also in a university sector now for 20 something years. I've completed a number of books in the area, a couple of books on greener marketing, on sustainable solutions, and lastly on designing for the circular economy that is becoming more important globally. And indeed, we had the World Circular Economy Forum with 4,000 delegates last week, spanning the world, all of which fits within the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, that is becoming more important worldwide.
To begin with, could you share, perhaps in simple numbers, why should a government give special attention to invest in the creative industries?
Well, I think you yourself presented a number of quite significant figures there, uh, both in terms of the size of the global market, but also there are a number of segments of that market that are growing quite significantly. But what I must say is, when I was looking at some numbers for the presentation, I did find a bit of a variation in some of those global figures, and that actually goes back down to some fundamental issues about the scope of your definitions for creative economies. You know, uh, as you've highlighted, the UN bodies tend to talk about creative economy, where a number of countries like the UK focus on quite specifically on creative industries. So I think, going back to your question, there's growth opportunities there in particular segments, notably fashion, also design, but also this emerging area of what we've identified as createch, that is a new hidden sector that seems to be emerging. And some elements of this are more hidden than others. But the other thing, but that particularly CV19 has highlighted, is the societal value of the creative industries. If we hadn't had that creative content online, what sort of quality of life would many of us would had, as you've highlighted, with people being, in lockdown. So there's that broader sort of non-economic value of the sector, as well as the economic value, the employment opportunities there. By 2030 in the UK, we're predicting, I think, 350,000 micro SMEs, continuing growth opportunities for companies. So both growth in sectors, but new opportunities that are emerging, as well as that broader je ne sais quoi, if you like, of the importance in terms of well-being, and what a society means.
Can you share with us your perspective of the some impact of the global pandemic on the creative industries that you have seen, at least through your studies?
Yeah, I mean, well, we were we within this study, looking out to 2030, we'd undertaken a couple of foresight studies looking at both the sustainability and Industry 4.0 within the context of creative industries. And this was literally weeks before lockdown. So whilst we were writing it, the pandemic was starting to hit. So what I think I've recognized, after, at where we are now globally, and I believe probably the impacts are global in terms of the sector, because a number of points you mentioned, I think, for Malaysian context are equally true in the UK. Clearly, we've got winners and losers. You know, Jeff Bezos is now, a quadrillion heir or whatever is beyond a measurable level of wealth. Particularly driven by within the creative industries. You've got Amazon and the film input. You've got the distribution business, also the cloud services, but also, what one also doesn't know is that they're often major investors in new technologies and artificial intelligence, et cetera, which sits behind a number of these firms. So, clearly they're winners. Netflix are winners. TikTok, I mean, I haven't actually monitored it myself since it started, but it seems to have got huge attention and huge growth during this time.
And come back to the topic of sustainability. And I wanted to talk about how the creative economy can partner with the sustainable development goals that are advocated by the UN. And of course, large corporations now feel a concrete need to address those issues as well as adopt them under their ESG programs. Where do you see the potential in the dynamism of the creative economy? Can it play a role beyond just CSR? Can it be a real meaningful relationship with large corporation, private sector capital, for example?
Uh, Absolutely, and if we're to achieve, sustainable development as exemplified by the 17 SDGs, we need new thinking, we need innovation, we need creativity, and we need new ways of thinking. We also need to consider this issue of creativity, and creative thinking within education systems. And education is a key pillar of the SDGs. So, in my view, looking at the creative economy and sustainable development, the SDGs, having thought about, this a little bit, in a former role I had, if we look at the creative industries, and the knowledge around the creative industries, crudely within those creative industries, we've got, um, you know, uh, you know, we could break it down into two typologies, if you like. You've got a lot of, a significant proportion of creative industries role is about communication, about telling stories, whether it's film, whether it's advertising, whether it's animation, whether it's digital, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a tremendous, massive platform to start to integrate stories on sustainability, stories touching on the individual sustainable development goals.
The relationship between creative industries and technology, which is, of course, right now very hot. It is not just the technification of yet another sector, fintech, biotech, health tech, but what are the more interesting opportunities here do you see?
Well, I think my observation on this, when I started to, prior to doing the survey and going a bit more back into the creative industries within the UK and thinking of it as a sector, is that I was surprised when I was doing my research that, I was thinking about this idea of createch and then did a bit of research and really it's still, as a sector, it's still very emergent. What we see is, the definition, the market sector, the market size, growth rates are still poorly researched. Um, within our study, we using our different research tools, we predicted that Createch was going to grow 10 times faster than the sector as a whole in the UK to 2030, and account for up to 40% of employment in the sector, because the industry 4.0 technologies, whether it's going to be machine learning, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, et cetera, are all going to start to permeate and move into different, businesses and products and services within the sector. And a lot of that is still emergent. And I think this is where it goes back to the CV19 issue. Is some of the work may have actually got accelerated on a number of these areas. In terms of augmented reality, in terms of virtual reality, in terms of museums starting to, may showcase, artifacts using the technologies somehow online or experiment with new approaches. Again, I think there's that hardware element to create it as well as the software. But of course, thinking about it as we're speaking, there's the peripherals, there's the wearable technologies. And so, we've got the Google Glass, we've got the virtual headsets, but we then got, how wearable technologies start to also become more important.
With that, thank you very much, Professor. I hope to see you again, and very good night.
Good night. Thank you very much. Have a good conference.
Thank you.